Hello friends, it's Ms. Dwyer, and as things start to bloom around my yard, especially all these trees, I'm starting to notice lots of insects buzzing around them. And I'm curious, what are the insects so interested in? What are they looking for in these flower blooms? So, I know that I could go to the internet or to a video and watch something about that and learn, but I thought it'd be more fun if I try to figure it out for myself first. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to collect some samples of flowers from around my yard and try to take a closer look at them inside my house and see what is so interesting to the insects about these flowers. Now, I have a pretty simple rule for myself when I decide to collect something. First, I make sure it's safe. So this is something that I know is safe. I know a little bit about this plant. This is a pear tree. But if I didn't know, I would make sure to ask someone who did, like an adult, somebody who knows about plants. The second little rule that I follow is I only collect things if there are lots of them. So I'm looking at my pear tree and it is literally covered in flowers right now. Actually, I have 3 pear trees and they're all covered in flowers. So that's a lot. But as I'm looking around my yard, I see other things too that are blooming or about to bloom. Like there's a lilac bush right next to me that have lots and lots and lots of flowers on them. So I think it's okay to take 1 or 2 flowers if there's plenty to go around. So that's what I plan to do, and I'll show you my collection in a moment. I'm in my backyard and I can hear them buzzing right over my head. But you don't need to have a yard to do this challenge. Right now, any neighborhood that you walk through, most of those will have flowering trees like the one that's behind me. So this is a crabapple tree. I'll just pull down, I can see a big bumblebee behind me in the crabapple. I'll just pull down one of the branches. So these are very common. You see them all over the place. I don't know if you can see them, but there's insects buzzing all around my head right now, including a big noisy bumblebee behind me. I love bees. I am allergic to them, but I know that if I leave them alone, they'll leave me alone. Bumblebees don't even sting. So bumblebees can't hurt us at all. So I don't worry about that. So these are some perfect examples of a flower that I might choose to collect, and I think I'll just pick one now. So I'm just going to take one from the bunch. That way I know I'm not going to hurt the plant. Ooh, it hung on more than I thought. And there's my one flower. Now I may take another one, but I'll take it from a different bundle so that I spread out my collecting if I take another one from the same tree. So I'm just going to show you one more good choice. This one behind me is called an Azalea. These are in bloom right now where I live. They look a little bit like you might have seen a rhododendron. It's a shrub with lots of flowers on it. And I'm just going to show you what they look like. I'm going to pick one that's out. This is a good choice because there's a lot of flowers again. They are safe, and also they're big, so they have lots of interesting structures, interesting parts to explore. So this is a good one too. Again, make sure to ask permission, but there's a lot of these around. So here's my sample of flowers that I collected. These were all flowers that the insects seemed interested in, and I took 6 and I put them in a half egg carton, because that's a good way to collect things and it's a good number. And then before I did anything else, before I even started looking at the flowers, I decided to make an entry in my science notebook. So I put today's date, I put where I was, I even put the weather in the corner, and I put a couple of questions that I wanted to investigate. Why do insects go to the flowers? What's so special about the flowers? And then I wanted to draw some of the insects that I had seen before doing anything else so that I wouldn't forget them. So these are just 4 because I thought I would just see insects like this bumblebee, but I also saw something with this long orange part on it. I saw little moths or butterflies that were blue, and I saw beetles. I saw other things too. So I think I'm going to take a few minutes and draw all the insects I can remember. The other thing I'm going to do is when it's time to start looking at my flowers, I did find a magnifying glass to look through. This is a really nice tool. You might already have one in your house. because it's going to let me look close because these flowers are pretty small. So I'm going to touch these flowers. I'm going to look at them really closely with my magnifying glass. I'm going to draw them, and I'm going to see if I can figure out why these insects were so interested in them. So I'll just show you a little bit of what I've done so far in my science notebook. I drew the insects that I could remember on the front, like I showed you. I did draw my flowers, quick sketch. Drawing's really important actually in science because it's a way to take a good look. Like I would have never ever noticed that this one had like a star shape in the middle. I would have never noticed how this comes to a point here. There's all kinds of things I noticed by drawing. So even if you don't love to draw, it's just a great way to observe. I also started to notice some similarities between my flowers. I wrote a few notes about what makes them special, what makes flowers special, because I'm interested in why the insects are so interested. I also saw a hummingbird. Color, soft, all things that I could describe about what makes them all special. And on this page, I'm going to start to actually look more closely at each of my flowers. So I've chosen to start with this one. And the first thing I did is I drew as detailed a sketch as I could, and I described and measured everything that I could about it. So I described that it has 5 petals. I described what's all this in the middle. I counted everything. I measured. I took a little ruler. I'm sure you have a ruler someplace at home. And I actually measured the flower. Tried to get as much information as I could to start. Then I'm going to actually start to take apart this flower and look at its parts under my magnifying glass or just with my regular eyes. I'll give you some advice about this. I'm not going to do it in front of the camera because the fun part is doing it yourself. But you always want to start when you're taking something apart rather than just taking the whole thing apart. I always start from the outside. So I'm going to look at the outside, and I feel like these, I'll show you, like these little pieces to me are on the outside. So I might start there. Now you can start wherever you want. But oh, these don't come off easily either, so that's interesting. I might need to take out my scissors to cut, but I'm going to try and take this apart piece by piece, and anything that I notice along the way, I'm going to record in my notebook. I noticed how quickly this came off. And I'm also going to remember what my question is, which is, why are these so interesting to insects? Like, what is going on with that? Is there anything I can tell by looking at it? So thanks for joining me. I hope that you enjoy figuring out what you can discover about a flower just by looking at it. I really want to encourage you to do the activity, to go out and find a safe flower, get permission to pick a few, and take them apart and see what's going on in there. Because you'll learn a lot more, and it's a lot more fun to do it yourself. So just watching the video is great, but really it's the discovering it yourself is the best part of this. So enjoy, hope you get outside, and I will see you next time.